Whether you're 4-0 looking for that missing piece for your championship run, or whether you're 0-4 and looking to stage an epic comeback, I got the players for you. Here's 14 players I think you should be trading for right now that can help your team rest the season. Now, it's very rare that you get an opportunity to trade for a top 3 fantasy player even one time during the season. But we're getting a chance to buy low on Ja'Marr Chase for a second time this season after Joe Burrow and this offense just failed miserably against arguably the worst passing defense in the NFL. I'm going to bet on the talent here. Not only the talent of Ja'Marr Chase, but the talent of Joe Burrow, the talent of this whole offense, the coaching staff, that they're going to figure it out, and probably very soon. And when they do, Ja'Marr Chase is going to be an absolute stud, and he's going to help savvy fantasy football players who use this buy low opportunity to strike, get a stud player, and potentially put them over the top. Some trades I'd be willing to make for Ja'Marr Chase right now, I would be willing to trade Derrick Henry straight up. It's pretty funny that after week 3, people didn't even want to start this guy. They were in full-fledged panic mode. Then he went out, ran for 120 yards and a touchdown, and now people view him as a top 5 running back again. I think he's probably going to be a top 10 running back this year. If I could trade Derrick Henry straight up for a player like Chase, I'm doing it. I would also package a player like Alvin Kamara coming off a good fantasy game, but a bad real-life game who isn't going to get 13 catches probably the rest of the season. And then a player like Deebo Samuel, who people still view as an elite fantasy option, even though he's coming off a down game, they'll give him a pass. I think these two guys could get it done. I also think a running back like Joe Mixon, also on the Bengals, who people still view as a good, talented fantasy running back, and a wide receiver like Deebo Samuel, who I just talked about, may also get it done. Now, Ja'Marr Chase isn't the only stud that you could go trade for right now. You could probably go trade for Tony Pollard at the moment. He has not had a good stretch here recently, but when you look at the usage, it's absolutely off the charts good. He's currently got the 2nd most attempts of any running back and the 5th most receptions, so he's getting work in the passing game as well. And even though he hasn't scored many touchdowns, he has the 2nd most attempts inside the 5-yard line and the most red zone attempts among any running back. It's going to turn around for not only Tony Pollard, but this whole offense. And when it does, Tony Pollard is going to smash in fantasy football and help teams win championships. And right now, a wide receiver like Deebo Samuel, who I just talked about, and maybe a running back like David Montgomery coming off a huge 3-touchdown game could be enough for Tony Pollard. As could a wide receiver like Garrett Wilson, who just looked pretty good in Sunday Night Football, and so did Zach Wilson, and you could probably pair him with a running back like Alvin Kamara, who still has plenty of value in fantasy, and get Tony Pollard. And then another wide receiver like Terry McLaurin, who also has been decent this year and it still has a lot of value in fantasy. You pair him with Alvin Kamara, that might do it as well. Now, if you've been watching this buy low video every week, a couple of weeks ago, I said, go get A.J. Brown right now while people are panicking on him. Hopefully you went out and got A.J. Brown. But now it's time to go get his teammate, Devonta Smith, who has been great this year. He's just been overshadowed by A.J. Brown for 2 weeks. But remember, in weeks 1 and 2, Devonta Smith was overshadowing A.J. Brown. That's just the nature of this offense. You want a piece of this offense. Both of these guys are elite, and people don't value Devonta Smith nearly as high as they value A.J. Brown. And I'm going to say a running back like David Montgomery, who again just came off a big 3-touchdown game. People think he's going to be Jamal Williams this year and get close to 20 touchdowns, which he might, but I'd still prefer the wide receiver like Devonta Smith. And then again, a running back like Alvin Kamara, who still has name value and did great for fantasy-wise, but terrible in real life, and probably isn't going to do that again this season. Or maybe again, a running back like Joe Mixon, who people still believe in, and you could pair him with a wide receiver like Romeo Doubs, who's had a nice start to the season, but remember, Christian Watson has yet to play over 50% of the snaps. This is a good time to sell high on Romeo Doubs. And then another wide receiver who is an absolute stud but has had a terrible run out to start the season is Jalen Waddle. Got overshadowed by Tyreek Hill in week 1, got injured in week 2, didn't play in week 3, and then in week 4, Miami looked the worst offensively they looked this entire season. But we know Jalen Waddle is a stud. We know this is a great offense. Kind of like Devonta Smith, he's going to have massive weeks as well, and you want a piece of this offense. And again, I'm going to say a running back like David Montgomery right now would probably get it done, as would Alvin Kamara. And again, I think if you wanted to package Joe Mixon and Romeo Doubs right now, that might do it. And then a wide receiver who I value very similarly to Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith, but most people don't, is Chris Olave. And now he's coming off a game where he did almost nothing, but that is because Derek Carr played through an injury he should not have been playing through. The reason Kamara had 13 receptions and Olave only had 1 is because Derek Carr couldn't throw the ball more than 5 yards. This is a great time to buy the dip on Chris Olave, a guy people already kind of doubt, and now he's coming off a bad game. And you could probably pair a running back like Isaiah Pacheco coming off a nice Sunday night game and a wide receiver like Courtland Sutton, who's been pretty good this year, and get Chris Olave. You also might be able to trade Aaron Jones straight up for Chris Olave. I know Aaron Jones is coming off a bad game, but people still like his name. He still has name value. People still believe in him. And then a couple of players who have been pretty good recently that I think are great sell highs. Number one, Alexander Mattison. Yeah, he's getting the volume, but he's not doing a ton with it. And look, Cam Akers is lurking. And then wide receiver DJ Moore, who just had a huge game. This is a great time to sell high on both of these guys. If you could trade him for a wide receiver like Chris Olave, I'm doing it. And then another wide receiver who has actually been great this year, it just hasn't translated to fantasy results yet, is Amari Cooper. But there's reasons to be encouraged here. You can't really look at what happened in week 4 because, come on, it was Dorian Thompson. You got to throw that out the window. But a lot of people are worried about Amari Cooper, and Deshaun Watson should be back after the team's bye. This is a perfect time to go out and get Amari Cooper. And again, I'm going to say Alexander Mattison, if you can trade him and maybe package him with a wide receiver like Jerry Jeudy, who also still has a lot of name value, I would do it. And I would once again trade Aaron Jones straight up for Amari Cooper if you need wide receiver help and you're okay at running back. And if you want to do a wide receiver for wide receiver trade, which I know people like to do, this is a great time to sell high on DJ Moore. Whoever has Amari Cooper may prefer DJ Moore right now. All right, continuing with wide receivers, but moving down a little bit in tier, let's go with Michael Pittman. I still think Michael Pittman is going to be great this year. Yeah, he had a down week 4, but he was fantastic before that. Everybody has down games, but people tend to panic when a player has a down game because they think, oh my gosh, this is now what's going to happen. If you can get Michael Pittman, this is a great time. Not to mention, Anthony Richardson looks like the real deal, so you don't even have to worry about that going forward. And again, I'm going to say, if you could trade a running back like Aaron Jones for Michael Pittman, I think that's a great deal. As is trading Joe Mixon right now for Michael Pittman. And then once again, I'm going to say if you could sell high on Alexander Mattison and get Michael Pittman, I absolutely do that. Now, it's hard to find buy low running backs because there aren't a lot of good ones out there, but I think Brian Robinson is a screaming buy low right now. He's quietly the running back 7 on the season, had a couple really nice games, had a couple underwhelming games here in the last 2, which is why he's a good buy low, but he went up against 2 of the toughest run defenses in the NFL, and he didn't even look that bad. And again, I'm going to say, if you can sell high on DJ Moore and get Brian Robinson, absolutely do it. Also, if you can sell high on Terry McLaurin, who still has name value and has been putting up decent games, I would do that too. All right, back to wide receiver. I'm going to recommend you try to go out and get Christian Watson. He played limited snaps in week 4. He did score that touchdown, but didn't do a whole lot outside of that. And people are very nervous right now because Romeo Doubs is getting involved, Jaden Reed. They're worried if Christian Watson will be the number 1 here, but he's going to be the number 1 here. And I'm going to once again say if you could sell high on Alexander Mattison and get a receiver like Watson, I'd do it. I'd also be willing to sell high on a running back like Zach Moss, who may be losing his job to Jonathan Taylor here shortly, and a wide receiver like Tutu Atwell, who's been pretty good this year, but don't forget, Cooper Kupp is coming back. If you could pair them and get Christian Watson, I'm happily doing that. And once again, I would say I will happily trade Joe Mixon to get a wide receiver like Christian Watson. I mentioned Jacoby Myers on the buy low video last week, but luckily Jimmy G didn't play, so now you can buy low on Jacoby Myers again. This is a guy in an offense that's going to have to throw the ball a lot, and they're only throwing to 2 people when it's Jimmy Garoppolo, Devontae Adams, and Jacoby Myers. He's pretty much a wide receiver 2 every week of the season as long as Jimmy G is playing. And I'm going to once again say if you can move Alexander Mattison straight up for Jacoby Myers, now is the time to do it. As well, if you could sell high on Zach Moss to a running back needy team who doesn't need Jacoby Myers, this is the perfect time. All right, I've got one more buy low running back for you, and that is Jerome Ford. Obviously, was a hot waiver wire pickup a couple weeks ago. He hasn't been terrible, but he's had a terrible 2 games as far as his run out has gone. Obviously, week 1 played against that insane Titans defense. He did come through with 2 touchdowns. Then here in week 4, didn't have Deshaun Watson. The offense was awful, couldn't do anything. But like I said, Watson should be fine and back after the bye. So if you're in a position where you don't need to absolutely win in week 5, now is a great time to go get Jerome Ford while his value is pretty low. And I'm going to say a wide receiver like Jerry Jeudy might get it done because, again, Jerry Jeudy has name value. People are waiting for the breakout. And look, Russell Wilson hasn't looked bad. And then I think this is a great time to sell high on Romeo Doubs. People are seeing what this guy is doing. They're nervous about Christian Watson. I still believe Watson will be the one. Great sell high opportunity for Romeo Doubs. And I think it's also a great sell high opportunity for Adam Thielen. He still has name value in fantasy. We saw in week 4 in a smash matchup, he was just okay. It's not his fault. It's Bryce Young. and Bryce Young is going to be the starter here as long as he's healthy. Great time to sell high on Adam Thielen. Back to wide receivers, and this is an absolutely fantastic time to go trade for rookie Jordan Addison, coming off 2 down games, a horrible week 4 game. But look, he still ran 71% of the routes. He's clearly the number 2 wide receiver here. They only had 44 snaps and 139 passing yards. When your offense only runs 44 snaps and only throws for 139 yards, and you got Justin Jefferson on your team, yeah, it's going to be hard when you're the wide receiver too. This is still a team that's going to throw at an incredible rate. He's going to get a ton of targets going forward. He's a fantastic buy low. And again, I'm going to say, if you could sell high on a running back like Zach Moss, who may not be the starter for much longer, and get Addison, I'm doing it. I would also sell high on a running back like Khalil Herbert, coming off a really big game. But if you watched our Sneaky Starts video, I talked about him. The game script was in his favor. Most weeks, it won't be. And then maybe people still believe in Tutu Atwell. He's been good. They might value him higher than Jordan Addison. It's worth a try. And then I'm going to keep saying it every week. You need to go trade for Marquise Brown. He's actually been pretty good with Joshua Dobbs, and this Cardinals team is playing really hard. And we did just get a report from Schefter saying, hey, Kyler Murray's not going to be activated off a PUP right away. He's still a few weeks away. But even if he's back week 7, week 8, week 9, you're going to have Hollywood Brown with Kyler Murray for your fantasy stretch run. He could be an absolute monster. Remember, he was the wide receiver 5 before that injury last year. And if you could sell high on a running back like Isaiah Pacheco, who just came off a huge Sunday night game, I would do it. And once again, I would sell high on Khalil Herbert, who also came off a big game, may not get many more opportunities like that this year. And then another wide receiver who still has name value like Jerry Jeudy that people might be buying on, I would rather have Hollywood rest the season. And then finally, I think this is a perfect opportunity to go trade for Quentin Johnston of the Chargers. Even though he didn't get it done in week 4 against the Raiders, he ran a route on 71% of the snaps. He's going to fill that Mike Williams role. And look, they're going on their bye. We often see rookies come out of the bye and have that post-bye bump. This could be it for Quentin Johnston. Now is the time to go trade him when he's dirt cheap. If you could trade a backup type of running back like Jaylen Warren straight up for Quentin Johnston, I absolutely do that. I would also be willing to trade a running back like Gus Edwards if there's some running back needy team out there and they don't believe in Quentin Johnston. Gus Edwards probably won't be anything great this year. Quentin Johnston has a chance to be a league winner. So those players could help you heading into week 5, but what about everything else you need to dominate your week 5 matchup? We got you covered. Check out our week 5 playlist right here.